Sairam students, a warm welcome to all of you to part 3 of our lesson Jane Eyre at Lowood Institution, which is written by Charlotte Bronte. Before I start with the lesson, let's have a quick recap of what we did in our last class, that was before the revision videos. This particular lesson has Jane as the main character. There are other characters as well. Now, Jane is an orphan, and after her parents passed away, Mr. Reed, who happens to be Jane's uncle, takes up the responsibility, of taking care of Jane. But before he dies, he takes a promise from his wife that she will take care of Jane in every possible way. After his death, his wife and his daughters, they don't treat Jane well. She's ill-treated by her cousin sisters and Mrs. Reed. Now, Mrs. Reed decides to send her to the Lowood Institution. And when she drops Jane to the institution, she tells Mr. Brocklehurst that Jane has a habit of deceiving others. On hearing this, Jane feels very bad. She's quiet. She doesn't say anything. Then one day, Mr. Brocklehurst announces to everyone that Jane has a habit of telling lies. Jane is ashamed. She feels very bad. She's upset. She goes to her room and she is sitting in one corner. And then Helen Burns goes there to console her with she takes a cup of tea and something to eat. But Jane is not ready to have anything. She's crying. Now Jane tells that what people around must be thinking about her. So to which Helen Burns says that it's just 80 people in over here. The world comprises of millions. Jane is not convinced. She's still feeling bad. Then next is Miss Temple, who sees these girls, and then she orders them to follow her to her room. And once they go there, she makes them sit and she inquires about Mrs. Reed. She asks various questions to Jane. And then she also tells Jane that speak the truth. Don't exaggerate. Don't add anything extra. Don't exaggerate. And Jane also does the same. Whatever she has gone through from since her childhood time with Mrs. Reed, she tells everything to Miss Temple. And then Miss Temple also says that she will write to Mr. Lloyd, and she will also cross-check if whatever Jane has said is correct. And then she says, as if now, for me, you are clear. There are no charges against you. So that is where I stopped, students. A gentle reminder to all of you to quickly go get your book and pen, and let's get started with part 3 of our lesson Jane Eyre at Lowood Institution. She kissed me, and still keeping me at her side, where I was well contented to stand, she proceeded to address Helen Burns. How are you tonight, Helen? Have you coughed much today? Not quite so much, I think, ma'am. And the pain in your chest? It's a little better. So all this while, Miss Temple was talking to Jane. And after she is done talking to Jane, she kissed her and then she turned towards Helen Byrne. And then she inquires that how is Helen Byrne feeling, how was she feeling that night? And if she had coughed enough that day. To which Helen Byrne says that, she didn't cough, so much. And the pain also in the chest was better. She felt better that day. So contented over here means satisfied. Jane was contented to stand. Wherever Miss Temple had asked Jane to stand, she was comfortable. She was satisfied. She was okay standing over there. Miss Temple was pensive for a few minutes. Then rousing herself, she said cheerfully, "But you two are my visitors tonight. I must treat you as such." She rang her bell. Miss Temple, she heard Jane's story. She also spoke to Helen Burns. And then she was pensive. Pensive is she was in deep thoughts for a few minutes. Then rousing herself. Rousing is she was thinking something and then all of a sudden she became active or energetic. That is rousing. And cheerfully she said that, those two girls, that is Helen Burns and Jane, were her visitors that night. And she said, "I will treat you as visitors." And saying this, she rang her bell. Miss Temple asked Barbara to get tea for all of us. Soon, Barbara came in with a tray. How fragrant the steam of the beverage was and the scent of the toast. However, to my dismay, for I was beginning to feel hungry, I discerned only a very small portion. Miss Temple discerned it too. So what happened when Miss Temple rang the bell? Who came in? It was Barbara who came in, and Miss Temple asked her to get tea for them. And then soon Barbara comes in with a tray, and then she brings in tea and toast. How did they come to know? Because of the fragrance of the steam of the beverage. Beverage over here is tea that she is talking about, and the scent of toast. However, to my dismay is, a feeling of fear or worry that is caused by something unexpected or unpleasant. Okay, she was feeling very hungry, and the portion that she saw in the tray, okay, she saw it was a very small portion. Okay, I discerned only a very small portion. I saw a very small portion, and the same thing was seen by Miss Temple as well. As Barbara withdrew, she added smilingly, "Fortunately, I have it in my power to supply deficiencies for this once." Now, as Barbara withdrew, as she left the room, okay, Miss Temple, she added smilingly. What did she say? That fortunately, I have it in my power to supply deficiency. The toast in the tray was not enough. These girls were hungry. So Miss Temple meant that she has something more to feed them with. Okay, she has she has the power to supply deficiency. The food is very less. The toast is, the quantity of toast is less. She has something more which she can give to these girls. Having Having invited Helen and me to approach the table and placing before each of us a cup of tea with one delicious but thin morsel of toast, Miss Temple took out a good-sized seed cake and proceeded to cut generous slices. We satisfied our famished appetites on the delicate fare she liberally supplied. Now what she did, she asked Helen and Jane to approach the table. She asked them to come and sit near the table. And what did she place before them? A cup of tea with one delicious but a thin morsel. Morsel is a small amount of toast. Okay, so she served them. What did she serve them? She served them a cup of tea and a thin morsel of toast. Miss Temple took out a good-sized seed cake. Okay, it's a cake wherein there are caraway seeds. So she took out those that good-sized seed cake, and then she proceeded to cut generous slices. Generous is basically the slices which were big in size. We satisfied our famished is extremely hungry. They were hungry, okay? Their famished appetites. They were extremely hungry on the delicate fare she liberally supplied. Okay, so she gave them something really very full to eat. After tea was over and the tray had been removed, Miss Temple summoned us to the fire. We sat on each side of her, and now a conversation followed between her and Helen. It was indeed a privilege to be admitted to hear such a conversation. So once they were done with their eating, and after the tray had been removed, what did Miss Temple do? She summoned us again. She called us again near the fire where they were sitting initially when she spoke to them. Okay, one girl on one side of the hearth and the other girl on the other side. And then what happened? There was a conversation between Helen Burns and Miss Temple. They spoke about something, and this girl, Jane, she felt that she had a privilege to be a part of this conversation. Clear? Look here, I have a picture wherein we can see Miss Temple and Helen Burns and Jane on one side. They conversed of things I had never heard of, what stores of knowledge they possessed. When the bell announced bedtime, Miss Temple embraced us both, saying, as she drew us to her heart, "God bless you, my children." Okay, so what has happened? They spoke. They is over here is who? It's Miss Temple and Helen Burns. They spoke of something that, Jane had never heard of. And, the knowledge that both of them had. She was amazed. She was surprised. Okay, she was so happy. She felt that she's so lucky to be a part. At least she can hear what Miss Temple and Helen Burns were discussing. And when the bell rang, okay, Miss Temple embraced us both. Embraced us, hugged both of them, and she brought them very close to her heart. And she blessed them, saying, "God bless you, my children." About a week after this, Miss Temple, who had written to Mr. Lowood, received his answer. Miss Temple, having assembled the whole school, announced that an inquiry had been made into the charges alleged against me, and that she was most happy to be able to pronounce me completely cleared from every charge. The teachers then shook hands with me and kissed me, and a murmur of pleasure ran through the ranks of my companion. Now, what has happened? She had written a letter to Mr. Lloyd, and after a week of that, what happened? She received a letter from Mr. Lloyd. And then what did she do? Having assembled the whole school. You remember how Mr. Brocklehurst had announced about Jane? The same way she announced about Jane to the entire school. And she had announced, what did she announce? That an inquiry had been made into the charges which were against Jane, and that she was very happy, that she was very happy to announce that she was cleared of every charge. That, whatever, that she was accused of telling lies, but it's not that. All the charges that were against her, she has cleared herself from all the charges. Then what happened? The teachers then shook hands with Jane, and they kissed her. And then a murmur of pleasure ran through the ranks of my companion. They all were very happy, which could be seen by Jane. Thus relieved of a grievous load, I from that hour set to work afresh. I toiled hard, and my success was proportionate to my efforts. In a few weeks, I was promoted to a higher class. So she was relieved. She was happy. There was this load. That that Mr. Brocklehurst had said that this girl, she has a habit of deceiving others. Stay away from her. So she was there at Lowood, but she had this thing in her heart that what people will be thinking about her. So now she is relieved, and then she decides from that very hour, to start all over again, start afresh. She toiled hard, she worked hard, and her success was proportionate to her efforts. The more she worked hard, the more success she achieved in her life. And within few weeks, she was promoted to a higher class. That night, on going to bed, I forgot to prepare in imagination of the Barmecide supper of hot roast potatoes, or white bread and fresh milk, with which I was wont to amuse my inward cravings. Instead, I feasted on the spectacle of freely penciled houses and trees and picturesque rocks and ruins, and examined in thought the possibility of translating the French story which Madame Pirot had shown me that day. So now what has happened over here? That night she was so happy. She was relieved. So she had forgot to prepare in imagination. She used to imagine about a Barmecide supper. It's an imaginary supper of hot roast potatoes, white bread, and fresh milk. So that day she didn't think about all those things. With which I was wont to is in the habit of doing something. She had this habit of imagining this supper, to amuse her inward cravings. Instead, what did she imagine about? She imagined about freely penciled houses and trees and picturesque rocks and ruins, and the possibility of translating the French story which Madame Pirot had shown her the other day. So Madame Pirot happens to be her French teacher. So she had shown a story which she wanted to translate. She wanted to translate the French story which her French teacher had shown her the other day. I would not now have exchanged Lowood with all its privations for Gateshead and its luxuries. So over here she feels that, in no ways I can exchange Lowood. Lowood had, had many privations. What is privations? It lacked many basic things. Okay, Gateshead had all luxuries, but she didn't get those luxuries. But still, that place was a better place to live. Whereas Lowood, that place didn't have basic things also. But then she was so happy over there. She was doing so well over there that she is saying that now, in no ways, no ways that I can exchange Lowood with Gateshead. Clear, students? So that's it, for this lesson, for this video as well. We'll catch up tomorrow in the next class, wherein I'll be covering with the value points and the reference to context. I'll see you in the next class. You will take care of yourself. Sai Ram and bye-bye.